if you look at plastic today, plastic is usually very light. And if you want to replace it with paper, usually it's replaced by higher grammage paper, which then makes the packaging heavier. So you have some impact in terms of transportation, in terms of productivity, in terms of level of energy needed to produce, and also about the thickness on the machines. So there are a lot of impacts. So with ultra lightweight papers, we are trying to mitigate those impacts so that it would be easier for packaging manufacturers to switch.
Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Sustainability Perspectives podcast series, which continues the discussion led at Packaging Europe's Sustainable Packaging Summit online. Today, we're taking a closer look at the role ultralight papers can play to boost packaging sustainability. And for that, I'd like to welcome today Anne-Laure Jekyll, who is Product Manager for Packaging and Lightweight Paper at SWM Group. And together we'll explore what ultralight paper actually is, the role it can play to replace plastic packaging, LCAs, consumer perceptions, required properties, challenges, and much more. So, welcome, Anne-Laure. Thank you very much for being on the podcast today.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you for having me today.
You're very welcome. To kind of set the scene at the beginning, could you explain to our listeners how you would actually define ultralight paper?
So ultra lightweight papers are actually papers that are in the range of 10 to 40 grams per square meters. So they are very, very light. Usually on packaging, we would be around 80 to maybe 120 grams per square meter. So 10 to 40 is really low.
Obviously, this ultra lightweight paper is set to replace flexible plastic packaging. I wanted to get your take on why do you think it's important to replace flexible plastics with alternatives?
Well, as per a study from the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, there will be 20 trillion of flexible plastic packaging items that will enter the ocean from now until 2040 in business as usual. So if we want to avoid that, we need to try to find alternative solutions. I'm not saying that the entire plastic packagings can be replaced. Sometimes they are necessary due to their properties, but a lot of them could be replaced by something else and potentially by paper.
And while we're talking about this replacement and the sustainability credentials, could you tell me a bit more about the LCA data that there is comparing the impact of plastics and paper packaging on the environment?
Sure. So today, in the current LCA, the way it's published today, it takes into consideration several factors such as climate change, water consumption, ecotoxicity, etc. There are lots of different attributes that are taken into consideration. But one of them that is not yet taken into consideration is the environmental impact of leaked plastic. So what happens if the plastic is not taken care of properly after its usage? And we believe that this is a critical attribute or something that needs to be evaluated to compare the LCA impact of plastic versus paper, because we cannot control in the entire world where the packaging will end.
And I was also curious to find out your thoughts on what are some of the external drivers that push the switch from plastics to paper.
There are several external factors that are driving the change. One of them is regulation, as you probably know, and we were talking a lot about the PPWR, that is giving the direction of where packaging should go in terms of recyclability, reduction, reuse. So this, of course, is driving the change. There are also some sustainability pressure. There are lots of requests to reduce the gas emissions, to preserve the natural resources, etc. And of course, as we said, looking at the LCA report. And I would say also that consumers are, of course, what we could call the kind of external pressure consumers demand, and as well as the image that brands want to give to their consumers.
I wanted to dive a bit deeper there since you mentioned consumers. How would you say is consumer perception shaping the future of packaging broadly? And in today's topic, obviously, the push towards plastic alternative.
Well, there is a recent McKinsey report that has been showing the perception of packaging types on consumers from different parts of the world. And actually, what is quite impressive is that there's a kind of consensus among the entire world where paper and cardboard are among the top 3 of packaging considered as sustainable. And plastic films is the latest one in terms of sustainable packaging, the perception and the consideration of the consumers. So this is a very important, it's something to be taken into consideration by brands. The perception of the consumers is very important for them, and it will help them to drive their changes.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense because obviously they sell to consumers. So yeah. I wanted to move on towards the necessary properties. And what properties are needed for lightweight papers to replace plastic films?
So plastic film has a lot of properties by itself, by its nature. So of course, that paper does not have by itself. So we need to actually adapt to the current machinery also that is in place at the packaging manufacturers' facilities. So for instance, plastic can seal with heat directly on the machine. So we need to give the heat sealability property to the paper, most of the time by adding a coating. Depending also on the application, we would need additional properties such as barrier to oxygen, water vapor, water, grease, oil. So those are the kind of properties that we will need to give to the paper. And strength also is very important. But of course, this last one depends on the application. The level of strength, you don't want over quality or over packaging. So if you need to adapt the level of strength as well as the level of barrier, depending on the end application.
Obviously, there's a strong focus on weight with the ultra lightweight papers. What makes this an important factor for packaging sustainability? And could you quantify the benefits of this ultra lightweight?
Yes, definitely. So it's very important. If you look at plastic today, plastic is usually very light. And if you want to replace it with paper, usually it's replaced by higher grammage paper, which then makes the packaging heavier. So you have some impact in terms of transportation, in terms of productivity, in terms of level of energy needed to produce, and also about the thickness on the machines. So there are a lot of impacts. So with ultra lightweight papers, we are trying to mitigate those impacts so that it would be easier for packaging manufacturers to switch. And so we made a comparison between 2 papers. One was 60 gram per square meter and one was 28 gram per square meter. So we used the same functional unit, which was 1 million per square meter, same recipe, same energy requirements. We analyzed then the LCA. The study was cradle to customer gate. And so the result that we got was reduction of 58% 6% of carbon footprint for 1 million square meter paper. So that's quite a huge impact to reduce the grammage of the paper. It can be so in terms of raw material, you use less raw material and therefore you have less waste. You also reduce the manufacturing, the energy needed to manufacture the paper, and you reduce the energy level to transport the paper from one place to the other. So we believe that depending on the application, again, some applications require heavier paper, but some applications could definitely use lighter paper that would help reduce the environmental impact of the packaging.
And obviously, converters value performance. And what functional properties such as heat sealability, barrier performance, and strength can ultra lightweight papers realistically already deliver today?
Today, if I talk about SWM, so we managed to have our ultra lightweight papers heat sealable by the coating on the paper, and we're testing other ways of having our paper heat sealable. And we have made some trials on machines, customer machines, which were promising. We had very good results. The paper seals and can wrap products. So that's a very good achievement. And we can say that this is something we can commercialize soon. We have some papers that have some barrier properties, not all of them, because when you want to give some properties to your paper, you need to add some barrier on it, to add some coating. So you cannot add too much. Otherwise, the quantity of coating would be too much compared to the level of paper itself and fibers. So you need to be mindful of that. And so today, it means that we need to find a coating solution that can give us the level of barriers that we need for the application. Today, we have some coatings that can give us, let's say, grease resistance. And we are working on others such as WVTR or water or oxygen barrier, which are needed by the industry, the packaging industry.
And on the flip side of this, I also wanted to ask you, what are the current limitations of ultra lightweight paper?
The fact that we need to limit the quantity of add-on to the paper would be a limitation, I would say, which we are actively working on with different types of coating, different coating solutions that would be more effective with a limited quantity to be added. So that would be the limit, as well as the resistance level, which would depend on the application. I mean, there would be some applications where the resistance level you would require from the packaging would not be suitable for an ultra lightweight paper. And for some, it would definitely be. So.
Yeah, and could you discuss some applications for ultra lightweight paper and some examples?
Yeah. So there are several potential applications, such as the replacement of the transparent film around boxes. I don't know if you take like perfume boxes and you want to replace this plastic film around. There are some products today that could be using paper instead of plastic. It could be, for instance, also in the clothes industry or laundry industry, where clothes are wrapped with plastic films. And we have a solution that is a porous paper, a breathable paper that would allow to prevent any humidity formation, because sometimes laundry products can be a bit humid. So we managed to find a solution to make this porous paper, heat sealable. So it works actually quite well, and we have some good feedback on our paper for those applications. And then it could be for soap wrapping, for instance, or even straw wrapping. So those are examples of applications we are working on.
I'd like to wrap up, as we often do, by looking to the future. And what breakthroughs, whether it's in barrier technology or fiber engineering or recycling infrastructure, would most accelerate the adoption of ultra lightweight paper as a mainstream replacement for flexible packaging?
Let's say if we could have a dream about the product, the ultra lightweight paper that would answer all the needs of brands and that would therefore push them to switch. It would be, for instance, in terms of technology, try to find ultra-resistant fibers to create the paper to avoid any stretch, to help stretch and to prevent burst. Ideally, also, we would be able to find bio-based coatings, which exist at the moment, but there's a lot of work to be done around that to meet all the sustainability requirements. So because of course sustainability will help to drive the change, as we said before, to also find coatings that would be very powerful and that would therefore we could limit the add-on to the paper, that would give enough sealing strength and that would provide all the barrier properties that we would want, like, as we mentioned before, water vapor, oxygen, etc. So I think if the technology could evolve in this direction, those different kind of direction, that would help to push. But also if we look at external factors, maybe some clarity around the coming regulation would help, because we hear a lot that brands are a bit cautious and not willing to invest too much because they are not really sure about what will happen in the coming years. So that would be very important to evolve.
Yes, I think many packaging manufacturers and brands and everybody have very keenly awaiting sort of clarity on that. So hopefully 2026 will bring what?
Yeah.
Okay. So that brings us to the end of our conversation today. And I'd just like to thank you, Anne-Laure, for being here and answering all my questions today.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth.
Thank you. And a quick reminder to listeners, in 2026, Packaging Europe Sustainable Packaging Summit will again take place in Utrecht in the Netherlands. And it will be the same date, November 10th till November 12th. But this will be from Tuesday to Thursday next year, or this year. Make sure you subscribe to our podcast as well on whatever platform you might be listening to it so you don't miss out on any of the latest episodes. Thank you very much. Goodbye.